The Islamic Revolutionary Guard has just been exposed, and what's been leaked is nothing short of absolutely horrifying. For weeks, the legacy media has been screaming about civilian casualties in Iran. For weeks, the anti-war left has been pointing fingers at America and Israel. And for weeks, they've been doing it with zero accountability for the single most important question they refuse to ask. Why were civilians anywhere near these military targets in the first place? Well, now we have the answer. And it comes straight, ironically, from the IRGC itself. A leaked document from Iran's own missile command has just blown the entire legacy media narrative to smithereens. And what it reveals about how the Islamic Republic deliberately, systematically, and cold-bloodedly put its own people in harm's way is going to make your jaw drop. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to help you make sense of the madness with breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Iran International has obtained what appears to be a 33-page internal directive straight from the IRGC's missile command. And this document, simply put, blows the lid off of one of the most diabolical military doctrines you're ever going to hear about. Because it turns out that Iran's use of civilian buildings, so we're talking warehouses, sports complexes, industrial sheds, service facilities, as cover for missile launch operations, it wasn't some improvised battlefield workaround. It turns out it's been structured. It's been documented. It was planned. It's built into their operational planning from the very beginning. The document reportedly lays out in rather cold, bureaucratic detail how to identify sites, how to conceal launchers, how to map entry and exit routes, how to disappear missile units after a launch, and how to do all of that while hiding in plain sight inside civilian neighborhoods. Fazin Nadimi, a leading defense analyst who reviewed the document, calls it a data-driven missile deployment architecture, meaning these sites were cataloged, they were mapped, and prepared in advance. And here's where it gets truly sinister. Under the laws of war, once military assets are embedded inside civilian structures, unfortunately, those structures lose their protected status. And that means, again, warehouses, factories, sports complexes, they become legitimate military targets. It's known as the principle of distinction. It's a cornerstone of international humanitarian law codified in the Geneva Conventions. And bottom line, civilian objects lose their protected status when they're used to make an effective contribution to military action. It's well established in both treaty law and customary international law. It's binding on all states. A warehouse storing missiles, a sports complex hiding IRGC launch teams, a factory used as a command post, schools, hospitals. Unfortunately, these all become legitimate military targets under this framework. But of course, who pays the price in all of this? Well, ordinary innocent Iranians, families, children. People have got nothing to do with the IRGC's war machine. Iran International has also confirmed that Iranian forces moved personnel and weapons into at least 70 civilian sites during U.S. and Israeli airstrikes. This is a nationwide pattern. They are not isolated incidents. Again, these are not improvised. They were planned. The moral point here is that Iran's IRGC bears direct responsibility for endangering its own citizens by deliberately and intentionally embedding military assets among them. It's horrifically immoral use of human shields because they know that if they're struck, then Iran wins the PR battle. That's why they're doing this. Thanks to the useful idiocy of our legacy media and their willingness to sacrifice innocent victims for that legacy media victory, again, is built into their defense plan. So the next time the legacy media clutches their pearls about civilian casualties in Iran, You could point them right to this document because the IRGC itself turned their own people into human shields. And you could also point out the legacy media's own complicity in all of this, because if they weren't such reliable purveyors of Iranian propaganda, then the IRGC wouldn't be doing this, certainly not at the level that they're doing it. And that's what makes this leaked manual, I believe, so much bigger than just a battlefield revelation. It is, in the end, a propaganda killer. For those who know about it, this 30-plus page document that apparently circulated among IRGC leadership, I mean, think about it. What the legacy media and the anti-war left have been hammering for weeks now. I mean, civilian casualties, war crimes, America the aggressor. That's been their entire playbook since Operation Epic Fury and Roaring Lion began on February 28th. And they've been running those claims with zero accountability for why civilians were anywhere near these military targets in the first place. Now we know why. Because the IRGC put them there. This 33-page directive from the IRGC's own missile command proves in black and white that Iran's military was systematically, deliberately, and structurally embedding its missile operations inside civilian infrastructure. Warehouses, sports complexes, industrial sheds, all of it cataloged, all of it mapped, and all of it prepared in advance. So when the U.S. and Israeli forces struck those sites that by Iran's own doctrine were actively hosting missile launch systems, they were conducting lawful military operations against legitimate military targets. And the IRGC knew exactly what they were doing. They were manufacturing the optics of a massacre to weaponize against the United States and Israel in the court of global opinion. That's not a war crime by America. That's a war crime by Iran against its own people. And now the strategic picture gets even clearer. And I'm going to show you exactly why. But first, who loves sushi? I know I do. I am a huge, my wife's from Japan. My whole family loves sushi, as do a growing number of Americans. In fact, over the last 2 decades, raw fish consumption has exploded. Sushi bars are everywhere. Grocery stores and gas stations sell it, and millions of people now eat raw fish weekly. But there is a hidden risk most people never think about: parasites. Salmon's one of the worst. It's one of the most popular fish worldwide, but it naturally contains more than 70 parasites. Now, most are tiny and nearly impossible to see, and they're making their way into the human body. Once inside, parasites can hide for years while frequently laying eggs before any symptoms appear. This is why many physicians are raising awareness about parasite exposure. Dr. Peter McCullough recommends doing a parasite cleanse at least once a year as a preventative measure. The wellness company offers a hard-to-access RX parasite cleanse, USA compounded ivermectin and mebendazole. Ivermectin paralyzes the parasite's nervous system, while mebendazole starves them. Each capsule contains 25 milligrams of ivermectin and 250 milligrams of mebendazole, lab tested for quality. And you can now get a more budget-friendly 45 capsule option that costs $250 less, giving you 2 21-day parasite cleanse cycles. Same formula as the original, just a smaller quantity. Head on over to twc.health/Turley and use code Turley to save $52 off plus free shipping, USA residents only. Analysts at the Small Wars Journal described the entire U.S.-Israeli campaign as what they call a, quote, coercive architecture, meaning it's designed not for occupation, but for systematically dismantling every instrument of Iranian power: missiles, drones, Navy, Air Force, leadership, energy infrastructure. And the goal was never a ground invasion. The goal was to put Iran in a box so tight that they can never threaten regional stability again. We've been calling it in a little more humorous sense, the abominable snow monster strategy, right? You remember the abominable snow monster and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, like best movie ever? Everyone in the North Pole was scared to death of the abominable snow monster. He was mean, he was horrible, he was frightening, he was going to eat them all. And then he lost his teeth, right? He lost his fangs. And what happened was when he was defanged, everyone stopped fearing him. He could no longer intimidate. And so what happened? Well, he became the Bumble. He became compliant and amendable and cooperative. That's exactly what's happening to Iran, whether they want to acknowledge it or not. The key objective of this military campaign is not necessarily, it's not invasion. It's to completely crush Iran's ability to project power in the region, most especially their goal of becoming a nuclear power. And when you can't project power, you're no longer feared. And so then oil tankers and commercial vessels and investment companies, right, regional investors and the like, or insurance companies, I should say, they're not going to give you a moment's notice. They're not going to take you seriously. Take, for example, their missile launch capabilities. So on day one of the war, Iran fired 170 ballistic missiles at Israel. As of yesterday, that number collapsed to just 3. So you could see the missile launch capacity just regressively depleting every single day of these last 30-plus days of Operation Epic Fury, from nearly 200 to now just 3. So that's been the goal all along, to completely defang Iran's capabilities to project power. And the Iranian regime knows that. They know that the American and Israeli forces are basically eviscerating their ability to project power, and they can't fight them toe-to-toe, as it were. So what are they doing? They're hiding. They're doing their best to hide that power behind human shields. So they're trying to, and in the process, they're trying to win the propaganda war to the extent that those objects of power are struck. And the leaked manual is the smoking gun that exposes Iran's entire strategy in that capacity. Use your own civilians as a defensive shield, then blame America when they get hurt. It's diabolical, it's deliberate, and now the whole world can see it for exactly what it is. It's pretty horrible stuff. The information war is just as real as the shooting war. And right now, thanks to this leaked document, America just scored a major victory in both. We're something you're proud of. The Turley Talk store, faith, family, freedom in every design. Browse the collection by scanning the QR code below.